Thank you, Lynn. Comfortable?
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. It is a special honor to be on stage at the 11th annual Wyoming Snow and Avalanche Workshop to do this on-stage presentation of the Fine Line podcast. I am your host, Matt Hansen. And I am honored to share the stage with these two men, Chris Kitchen and Josh Pope. I've known both of them for many years. And it's not often that I get to interview my friends on the Fine Line, which is probably a good thing. Even though during the course of the interviews, I often form really deep connections with the people who come on. The Fine Line was started in 2016 by the Teton County Search and Rescue Foundation as part of our Backcountry Zero programming, just like WYSAW. And the idea behind the podcast was to use storytelling and the sharing of personal experiences to help all of us better understand how accidents happen and how we can prevent them from happening in the future. It also includes the invaluable perspectives of our local first responders, people like ski patrollers, the SAR volunteers, and the rangers up at Grand Teton National Park. We really need to include their feedback and their perspectives because these are the folks that come out to get us when things go wrong. They're the people that come up during your darkest hour and put a hand on your shoulder and say, it's gonna be okay. And then they get you out of there to ski another day or snowmobile another day, as it were. This episode of The Fine Line, where is the clicker? This episode of The Fine Line is about an avalanche that occurred last winter in Rock Springs, just outside the Jackson Hole Mountain Resort boundary. And to start off this presentation, I was looking for a photo. I was trying to find a photo that would show me and Chris Kitchen together. And we've known each other for a while, and we've done different projects together. And I was thinking like, oh, I need a photo of me and Chris together. And then I remembered that we have this beautiful photo that anchors the podcast page on our website. And there's a couple things that I love about this photo. It is a beautiful shot. It is not Rock Springs, by the way. But that skier out on the Traverse is Chris Kitchen. He and I go back a little bit. We both work in media, and about 10 years ago, we were working on a project together for Powder Magazine. I was an editor there at the time, and I was writing a feature story about skiing in Grand Teton National Park, and he was working on a film for Powder about skiing in national parks in general, and went around the country that winter skiing in national parks. And the thing that I learned about Chris is that he can carry a really, really heavy pack for a very long way in the backcountry. And
very slowly.
And very slowly, and have conversation the entire time. This was a day that we skied. Oh, that other person in the photo is Dan Korn, a phenomenal human being who was showing us around that day in a pretty amazing place. And I was like Lloyd Christmas in Dumb and Dumber, just like giddy as a schoolboy to be in this place with Dan Korn and Chris and skiing with these guys. So that's by way of introduction, and I'm gonna let the two of them just tell you who they are and where they're from and kind of the experiences that they've had that led us up to what we're gonna get to eventually.
All right, my name is Chris Kitchen. I was born in Colorado. My parents were ski bums in Breckenridge. You can see I had a comp pass even when I was 3 years old. And then they moved to New England, grew up kind of mogul skiing and freestyle skiing in the 90s, which was pretty hot back then, in the East Coast. And then I went out to college in Western Washington and met this person, Ari Agnew, and she was like, hey, you should come to my house if you like skiing. And then I met her dad, that legend with the chains around his neck in that old Patagonia photo. I think he's maybe on his 55th winter of not working and skiing in the Tetons. And he had a big impact on me, really taught me about that freedom of the mountains, backcountry skiing. I never actually really backcountry skied before I showed up. He gave me a pair of leather telly boots and telly skis in 1998 and started skiing with him a bunch. And my group of friends from college, we met him, skied with him a bunch. And he really informed that like freedom of the hills. It's okay to go out there. It's okay to kind of get in trouble. Like he wanted you to kind of experience it. And he would be gentle, but not super gentle when you're out there. And yeah, so that was a big impact. And then it's funny, after college, a bunch of my buddies all moved to Jackson. I thought we should move to Targhee in the Idaho side because that's where Davey was from. But yeah, long story short, we still run into Davey up on the pass all the time and ski with him, and it's pretty entertaining. And then I've always been into film and video, and I co-founded KGB Productions with Sam Pope, who's here. And our passion was just we wanted to make cool ski and outdoor films. Back at that time, it was basically Matchstick, TGR, and Warren Miller. So we came to Jackson, as many people do, to be a ski bum for a couple of years and do some film projects. And then it evolved into a commercial film production company where, you know, 50% of our work is outdoors, action sports. The other 50% is all over the country doing all sorts of different production. And yeah, I love the outdoor sports. It keeps me out. It gets me out there. I made amazing connections, met a lot of people through it. And, you know, I think my passion in the filming is just to, like, tell interesting stories and connect with people and hopefully share some good word. And, yeah, that's kind of it.
Carry a heavy pack in the backcountry.
And carry a heavy pack. It makes you stronger. And I love skiing without my camera pack.
And I met Josh Pope, when I was working at Powder, also organizing our annual ski test, and I needed some really strong local skiers from Jackson to help take out a bunch of ski industry folks and get them really tired and maybe a little scared along the way too. And Josh, tell us a little bit about you and where you're from.
Hi everybody, Josh Pope. Born in Washington State, born in Yakima, grew up in Port Arthur, Washington, but not as good as a storyteller as Chris Kitchen, but I'll try my best here. But yeah, I just moved here actually 2001 after college. I went to UW in Seattle. My buddy Joel Tate here is in the audience. We moved here together with a couple other buddies. And yeah, we were just pumped on skiing. We, you know, grew up skiing Crystal Mountain and, you know, Snoqualmie Pass, and grew up, or really explored Alpental a lot while we were there, living there in Seattle. And when we moved here, first run was we went up, we hiked Glory, skied first turn, and hit a lot of rocks. I remember that. But then basically after that, just was tuning skis at Hoback Sports for, I still kind of tune skis there actually, but that was my first job in Jackson. And then started ski patrol in 2008 for Jacksonville Mountain Resort. And now I'm a forecaster, so.
And what does your day-to-day look like as a ski patroller, Josh?
I'm one of 5 forecasters for the resort, and our day-to-day basically is one of us is early, so one of us is there at 5 o'clock, looking through all the instruments, and then trying to compile all the data for how much it snowed at the bowl, at Raymer, mid, base, and then we put that together and we try to get that info online on the, you know, we call the little sheet. The big one is called the big sheet, but all that is posted. We try to get it for marketing, you know, by 5:30, 5:45. And then from there, we're basically getting ready for running routes that day. Hopefully it snowed a bunch. And we're just getting ready to run control for, you know, 6:45 is X-Scar. X-Scar is the big dogs who make all the shots. On a big control day, there's 250 shots, so they have a big morning. And that's the first tram that goes up, and they're throwing car shots out the window, and then basically 7 o'clock tram, Route 5, Route 1, 7:15, 7:30 tram. And that gets every route up on the hill, and then they disperse out.
So that's a lot of history sitting up on the stage, a lot of Jackson history, a lot of ski experience. And that leads us up to February 3rd, 2025. And actually, for those of you who've been here all day watching, this incident that we're about to talk about was teased a little bit in a couple of presentations for the keen observers out there. So Chris, can you tell us about this photo? And this is a kitchen photo. And what was your plan for that day?
Truth be told, this photo is not from February 3rd. Sorry, I misled you with that.
Live fact check.
I was say it didn't look like that day.
No, it didn't look like that day. It was when he said. So yeah, we had a film product shoot, shooting with the brand, just product stuff. Our plan was to go up. It's a client I've worked with for a long time. It's not like a rad bro TGR ski film. Our whole idea is just getting shots of people having fun out in the mountain, a lot of catalog shots, a lot of ski action stuff. Knowing that the danger was high and there was a snow weather, our initial plan was, hey, let's bring our backcountry gear. We can shoot in bounds all day. We don't even need to go out of the gate. We'll just kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. And that was kind of our initial plan. And if I remember correct that day, I was skiing the day before on February 2nd, and stuff was pretty reactive out there. Seemed like I happened to know a bunch of the patrollers, so I talked to them. Stuff was pretty reactive. That next morning, we were up there, and again, talking with some patrollers and guides I knew, they were saying, hey, we weren't getting stuff to release as easy as we were yesterday. It was a lot of and Josh can speak to this, maybe 4 and 10 pound charges. They weren't getting as much ski cutting. So, that little information stuck in the back of our brain. And most of these people that we're with, I had filmed the shot with before. It was myself, one other filmer, a photographer, we'll call him Skier 1. He had just taken his first AMGA course. There was another local female skier with us. And then there was a female from Alaska who was a heli guide up there. And then another skier. So pretty seasoned crew. And we had discussed the conditions in the Avalanche report. And we were just planning out to go and have a good day. And 7 is a big group, and a lot of times we'll split up. We'll do a group of 3 and 4. We'll do a couple runs. We'll have a meeting point. We'll come back. And similar when we're in the backcountry, if we have a big group like that, let's say we went to 4 Pines or something, we'd all hike up together, get the photos. One group would go down one shoot, one would go down the other, and then we'd meet up at the end. So yeah, that was kind of the plan for the day, and it was a delayed opening, right? It didn't open until 10 or so that morning.
Yeah, on the 3rd, we basically we had to rerun a bunch of routes that morning, and I think we opened the tram maybe by 10-ish. I can't remember exactly, but I know we didn't open north from Bridger to the north until close to 11 because we had to rerun. We had a massive result in, I didn't show, we'll show it later on the map, but you can see there if you know that familiar terrain.
So what we're looking at here is the control routes. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong.
This is the day before the Avalanche, but
day before, on February 2nd, control routes.
And on this day, it's basically, we'd had that 10 inches of new snow. We've already had an inch of water from the day before. We had another inch that day with another bunch of miles of hour of wind, 600 miles of wind, and that's when it switched to high hazard. First day high hazard from considerable, but it was pretty reactive snow. It was not a dense slab, and so you were getting it on touching it with your skis. It was reactive, but that changed on the 3rd for sure. It was a lot denser snow, and so air blasts were way more effective on the 3rd.
Can you explain what air blast is for people who might not know?
Yeah, air blast basically, we have them all over the resort, but basically you can see, that was a big gas egg shot there in the head wall. But we basically have cables with trolleys on them that we put either 4, 8, 10 pound explosives together, maybe 12 pounds, and we hang them in the air. And so we get a way more effective, decibel rate into the snowpack. And on a stubborn kind of snowpack like that day of February 3rd, that's what was working to get that snow to move.
So when we're talking about Jackson Mountain Resort and the lift serve backcountry that is accessible off the tram, off different lifts there, this is kind of what we're talking about. And I just want a show of hands from people is who in here has skied out of bounds at Jackson Mountain Resort? Who here, keep them up if you have skied out of bounds on a day when the hazard rating is considerable or higher. So quite a bit. And I think that when we talk about, what I'd be curious to hear from you guys is, Kitchen, if you can talk about your guys' decision during that day, like what you were experiencing on the mountain and how you ended up going out of bounds.
Yeah, we had been skiing inbounds, getting a bunch of great shots, skiing around. I think it was pretty good snow. It was a little denser. It wasn't kind of like light and spraying up. And then,
We were getting like 20, it was like 20% density that day.
yep. Things were going good. Weren't seeing a lot of signs of anything inbounds. And then kind of the classic Jackson thing, you know, you kind of keep skiing by, and then you start seeing tracks out the gates, people going out the upper gate, the lower gate. And it was about 2 o'clock, and we were like, hey, let's go out the lower gate to Rock Springs and kind of poke around there. This little area called the Powder Alleys. It's a really silly place, but it's good for filming. It's on that Green River boot pack right to the right of it. It's maybe 30 degrees most of the time when we're shooting in there. You know, the person's like straight lining in, making 3 turns and coming out. And our plan was, let's just ski that. We can get a couple good shots with no tracks in them, and then, you know, we'll call it a day, or we'll kind of figure out what we're going to do from there.
And can you sort of shed light on, maybe for both through the lens of a patroller as well as what a skier, like in your mind, how do you explain Rock Springs to people, and kind of what is the, like, how do we sum it up for people?
Well, Rock Springs is a pretty awesome place to ski, but it's uncontrolled backcountry, so you know, it does get the most skier compaction or most skier traffic, low-hanging fruit out of the ski resort, because the tram takes you right to the top of it. So it gets a lot of traffic, and I know I try my hardest to try to make sure people have gear, you know, and know what they're doing. Hire a guide, because you get asked all the time, you know, what do we do out here? Where do we go? And you can't tell them what to do. You have to say, you need to hire a guide, you need to take some education, you need to make sure you have gear. And we see it out there all the time with people skiing by you. I mean, we'll talk about it later, what we saw after the Avalanche, but it happens a lot. A lot of people get really lucky in Rock Springs.
And as a skier, Chris?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff to ski. It's kind of benchy. It's relatively easy. And I mean, probably in the 25 years I've lived here, I've probably skied it over 100 times. But ironically, I have a little joke that I don't really ski Rock Springs. I leave that for the snowboarders as long as they stay out of the backside, and I go there. So I don't ski it that often, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's the low-hanging fruit. You know, when you have friends that come in town, most of you are familiar with it. When you have friends that come in town, people that aren't that backcountry experience, like, that's where you take them. And I think there is sometimes that false sense of security there because it's so popular. It's so skied, and you'll see in some of these photos, I mean, after a snow, it'll be a mogul field in there the next day or the day after.
Yeah, for sure, and we respond quite a bit to Rock Springs, you know, as far as on the patrol side. And a lot of people will go at Gate 2 at the top of the ridge of the bowl and just follow tracks on the Jersey Shore. And luckily we have some signage out there now, and I think that helps people a little bit. We call it the Yellow Brick Road. There's at least something saying there's skull and crossbones, and you know, don't go further down slope here. But it's just, we're super lucky to have that access of that backcountry, and that went in 1999, so we've had it for a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to remember, like, to point out that it is not controlled, that it is backcountry. Even if you're leaving the gate, it is still backcountry, despite how close it is and how familiar we all are with Rock Springs and a lot of the terrain out the gate at the village. So, Chris, you guys are skiing laps on the Green River boot pack, and kind of take us into your decision making at that point.
Yeah, can we go to that next slide? So we had skied the Green River boot pack. I think it was probably about 3 o'clock, and we were pretty happy. We were like, hey, we had a great day. We got a lot of good stuff. We put away some of the radios, which is not always the best thing to do in hindsight, just because athletes and people tend to steal my radios and never return them. So, how do we use this now? So this is normally where you kind of come into Rock Springs. We're standing here. There's this kind of high traverse that goes here. This is a fake safety spot. And then you can traverse over to here. Can we go to that next slide? Oh, sorry. Again, this is kind of where you start. Normally, we were initially just planning on skiing out Rock Springs, just right out. We were done for the day. And then this is kind of the high traverse. This is where we were standing when the incident happened. And this is where we were trying to get to, the safe spot. So basically what happened is we got to the point where you can look into Rock Springs, and on that little rock precipice, there was a guided group, one guide and 4 skiers, so 5 of them standing on that rock. We watched them all kind of ski down to that lower safety spot. And we kind of had that discussion. We're like, oh, wow, that traverse is in. Maybe we should just traverse over there. And right along the side of there, there's this like big rock with some green moss on it. You've probably seen a photo from it. So I think we kind of, in hindsight, had a little bit of that false sense of security. Saw a guided party out there. I know just kind of their protocol is that somebody else probably set that traverse. It didn't look like they had set it. So we saw, 5 people ski across the slope. One of the skiers and the photographer went out first to that island. I was a 3rd person on that rock. And we were just waiting. That guided group was right in that spot we wanted to kind of get to. And, there's some breakdown in communication, and people were waiting, but then the rest of our group started kind of coming up there. And I remember even the photographer saying, man, I don't like just standing here. And we kept being like, yeah, I wish those guys would move so we could kind of move along.
Were you guys shooting at the time?
We were not. Everything was in our backpacks. We were kind of traversing out, and we were talking about getting to that spot, and then we'd pull out our cameras and get another shot.
So before you go to what's next, I am curious to hear your thoughts on, I know you weren't shooting, but I think one of the things that's important for us to consider, and I know a lot of people think about this, but can you talk about Kodak courage and when people are carrying cameras and they're getting film or getting photos? Is that a thing?
It can be a thing, but we have that conversation, honestly, on every shoot. And every other film crew, from us to working with Teton Gravity Research or those guys, those conversations happen before. And I think what a lot of people don't see is we take a lot of time planning. We talk about it a lot, spend a lot of time looking at avalanche snow reports. So we did have that conversation. I always say, hey, if you don't feel comfortable doing anything or any of this group doesn't want to do anything, let's not do it. And actually that day we had a decision where we were at the top of the Green River boot pack, and there were a bunch of tracks in the Green River, and we were like, oh, maybe we should check that out. And the general group consensus, I think 5 out of 7 of us were like, you know what, we've had a great day, let's go out. So that was an option where there were a couple guys were like, well, we could go ski there, and I had this little cliff this one guy wanted to hit, and the group kind of made that decision that it was late in the day, and we didn't think it was worth it. So and I'm talking to Ian's slide earlier, and it was classic. We had this plan. We were going to ski out, and then we deviated from that plan at that last second is one of the many lessons I learned that day.
So you guys are up on this traverse, and walk us through what happened next.
So we're kind of standing there. The last girl is kind of coming across the traverse. She's almost at us, and then the last guy came, who was a filmer, who happened to have a very heavy pack, and he was a snowboarder. He was on the track, and just somewhere on the track, there's a little compression. He yelled avalanche. I heard the photographer say, here we go. And, I don't know how many people have been in an avalanche, but it happens faster than you thought. It broke 200 feet above us. And before I even heard the word avalanche, it was just crumbling all around me. Nothing to do. Started going down the, can we go back to that other slide? Oh, no, that's great. I started going down the looker's right side of that rock. Ironically, I normally wear an airbag, but I'm not wearing my camera pack. I went for my airbag twice and then had that moment of panic when I realized I didn't have that. It's crazy. It's like a 3-second event, but it's like plays like a slow motion movie in my head. I grabbed a tree for a second, and then the force ripped me up, and for a second, I was standing up and skiing out to the right, and I had this thought, like, I might ski out of this, and then I could just see the whole line breaking and the slope coming down, and that's when it came. I kind of leaned into it, and I think that's when I lost my skis, kind of washer machine effect, dark, light, seeing it, and I had this, like, weird kind of sense of calm as it was kind of slowing down. I could kind of see through the snow, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be close to surface. I'm going to be okay. Like, my friends are going to find me, not knowing that all 7 of us were caught. But that the last second when I felt it slowing down, I kind of stood up, came up to the surface. What I had taken, there was 2 people, the snowboarder who caused it and the last girl. They were able to grab a tree or kind of ski out of it, so they were up at the top. Yep, up at the top. I was... Oh, whoops. Oh, no. Oh, what's back? Wrong way. Oh, you do. We're done.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. So, yeah, and I would say the biggest... Boo. All right, there we go. Well, it doesn't really matter.
That's good.
So
Thank you.
I ended up being higher than a lot of the other people because I had gotten up and skied. First panic, I kind of just look around. Everybody's yelling, trying to count who the people are. And I think our lucky thing is the 2 people up top could kind of see where we all were because there was about 4 of us that were on the surface. The first person I looked for was the photographer. He's a good friend of mine, and me and him were the only people in our group that had children. So, my first thought was, is he okay? Okay. And then there was one guy that was partially buried, and miraculously, he had his leg sticking out. And part of the reason was he went down that left side of the rock and dislocated his shoulder, so he was unable to swim or anything. He was just kind of torpedoing down. And the guided party was on the edge of it, and they were actually had saw the foot sticking up, and they were all down there. Guy had his shovel out, was digging. Clients were messing around with shovels. I don't know what they were doing. And then everybody else was skiing there, and I just remember I was in there. I had lost both my skis. I was maybe 100 yards away from that period, and I started running over there, and it was apparent that, like, if you've ever been in avalanche slope debris, it's, like, not easy to move through. It's hard, soft snow, and I was unable to even get close to him, so I could just kind of sat down. I realized there was 6 people there. His leg was out. They dug him out. We all kind of got together, kind of assessed the situation, and
So no beacon search. You guys didn't have...
no beacon search at that point. We were all there. A lot of gear was missing. About 6 skis were gone. Yeah.
And then did you guys call for help? Like what? How did that transpire?
Guide service called ski patrol.
Yeah, they called us about 3:25, I think was when we got the call. So pretty late in the day, really. But yeah, I think I responded. I got there 3:30-ish, something like that, 3:35 with 2 pairs of skis. Myself and Bill Vore went out there. And I didn't know. All we knew, the call was basically 7 people caught and captured. Everybody's okay, everybody was fine. You don't get that call all the time. But in that situation, I'm glad you're here talking about it, Chris, for real. But yeah, so we responded with 2 pairs of skis. They said there was no medical issues, so everybody was fine. Just a little mentally bruised. But yeah, we got out there and tried to gather everybody. I saw some people I knew. I saw Chris. And then we kind of just tried to get gear together. We realized we didn't have enough skis, so I had to call for more skis. So a couple more patrollers brought more gear out. And then that Alaska girl skied out with 1 ski.
Yeah, she's hardcore.
Yeah. Because it wasn't easy skiing snow. It was pretty dense, It's on cascade powder.
And in hindsight, there was that group of 5, and then, we found out through the grapevine that there was probably a group of 3 or 4 that set the traverse before. So, the person who set that avalanche on the traverse was the 12th to 15th skier on that traverse that day, which speaks to the stubborn nature of that snow. And then, we actually had this moment of laughing and funny when we got all our stuff together. We're sitting there, and this just speaks to how lucky people are in Rock Springs, is solo skier, I'm not kidding you, like jeans, starter jacket, rips down the North Pole face where we just all got slid.
Taking pictures of us.
Taking pictures of us, skis right by. And we were just like, and that guy's going to reproduce, and that's where this world's going.
But it did make us laugh.
It did make us laugh.
Yeah.
And then, and again, and not to be judgment of other people, but, you know, and that's why I'm sharing this story, because I think we need that more education out of there, and we'll get to this a little bit later. But I think Josh saw it too. Then there was another group, probably last tram, skiing the south side of Rock Springs, 8 people.
8 people, yeah.
No packs, nothing, coming down. I don't even think they looked up and saw the crown across the valley. They were just hooting and hollering going down, and, you know, no judgment on those people. I'm sure they were just following tracks and having a good time, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's something that we all need to talk about.
Yeah, and I want to go back to kind of what we were talking about with the familiarity of Rock Springs and how it's low-hanging fruit, quote unquote, and it's just right there, and it's so easy to get to, but it's still backcountry, you know, and kind of what does that say about our culture, and what do we need to do to kind of shift that culture in a positive direction, you know? And I think one of the steps is for sure is coming up on this stage and talking about it too.
For sure.
Yeah, I think for me there are a lot of lessons learned.
There's a short video.
Short video, that's me right there. That's one of our skis. Yeah, and you know, we were really lucky. Relatively benign terrain, everything rolled out flat, no cliffs, no trees, no rocks. That really helped us.
And it's pretty lucky you all kind of arrested in a close proximity, because that terrain, once you get past that little flat spot there in the picture,
yeah,
kind of where we're gathered there, pretty terrain trappy, snow below that. Like if you got carried further, you know, it could have been a different result.
100%. Why did I decide to do this?
Yeah, so why? Well, I reached out to Chris after this happened to check in on him in last winter, and just, like, that's a pretty hard thing to go through. I'm sure that we can all empathize with that. But then, as we were putting WYSAW together, it was like, hey, do you want to come and talk about this avalanche in Rock Springs? And I'll let you take it from there.
Initially, I was hesitant. And I think it is because, you know, especially in the Teton area, there seems to be more avalanche shaming than in other places I've skied and been. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks. I have been one of them myself. And I felt like I've always preached that the more we talk and share about avalanches, the better it is. And there's some people, you know, like Zahan or Griffin Post that also post a lot about avalanches and making mistakes and stuff that have kind of inspired me. And then I think that was Brenton Hedges and those guys in the Avalanche on Albright Peak a few years ago. And those guys were really open about it and all that. And that's kind of inspired me to be, if I can tell this story and help other people realize it. And, you know, in hindsight, there's a lot of things that we did wrong. And when I was watching Ian slide and he was talking about that, it's like there were a lot of points in there. I was like, yep, that was us. We deviated from the plan. Yep, we, you know, kind of expert halo. Everybody was very familiar with the terrain. End of the day, we had just kind of let our guard down, and communication breakdown, you know, taking the radios from everybody before the end of the day, because, you know, that maybe we could have said, hey, we don't like standing here. Will you guys stop? Kind of windy, yelling back and forward. That's how all 7 of us ended up on that little rock, was maybe a little communication breakdown. And then, you know, for me, I think, again, the takeaway of it is, you know, always following protocol. One person on the slope. It doesn't matter if there's 100 tracks in Rock Springs or if there's one, but I certainly won't be on that traverse or any traverse with a bunch of people ever again. And, you know, I think we all do it. We all ski here a lot. If you have a lot of experience, you cut corners sometimes just because it's easy. You're familiar with the terrain. And I think, yeah, it makes me want to approach the side country of Jackson Hole a little more serious, because we've had this conversation before. There's a lot of stuff you ski in the Jackson Hole side country that when you're doing hut trips or true backcountry stuff, you might not ski on that day or something like that. And I think a lot of it is that familiarity with the terrain. You know that if you're not going to ski it, somebody else is going to be there skiing that day. So yeah, there's a few protocols that broke down, and I think everybody learned from it. And I will say one of the highlights after that incident was going to the patrol room, seeing a bunch of people I know, getting hugged, and all of those guys, no judgment, nothing. And then a lot of them were sharing stories about when they made a mistake or something happened. And I had a bunch of people reach out with that, being like, hey, man, I heard you went through this. This is what I did it. And, you know, I think, like Alex said, the more we can share observations and reports, you know, is pretty important. I think a lot of us that ski around here, we hear about close calls every storm cycle. A lot of it doesn't get reported. And if we can kind of share that, then hopefully it can help other people not be involved in an incident like this.
Thank you, Chris. And Josh, any final thoughts from you from the ski patrol side?
Let's have a good winter.
Well said. Thanks, everybody. That's our special on-stage episode of The Fine Line. You can find all the episodes that we do at backcountryzero.com and wherever you get your podcasts, or listen to it on KHOL every Thursday at 2 p.m. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just a little cluster behind the scenes. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. I've been waiting for years to use that line. Okay, go, that way, go. What's that, love? The little box? What little box? The question box? It's on the floor. We've been putting trash in it. It's like the microphone. Oh, the green question box. I don't know. It's over there.
How about who has a question? And then we can throw it to you.
There we go. Here, I'm really bad at this.
I had a question for, I believe, Chris, the ski patroller?
Josh.
Josh, sorry.
That's all right. I mean, I'm sure he knows his own name. You can ask him.
Well, that's good.
I'm sorry.
I just had a
Yeah,
question.
Josh, you're up.
About JHMR's ski patrol response to, is there any circumstance or possible conditions that you guys wouldn't respond to a call out of bounds?
Yeah, for sure. We it's a situational kind of response each time. And every time we do go out, we call 911 right off the bat to let TCSAR know, let the Park Service know that we're going to respond to it. And it's not something that we have to respond to. You know, if it's a high hazard day, if it's extreme danger, it's situational. But most times, I'd say 95% of the time, we do respond to pretty much anything in the backcountry if we can get there, and it's safe in a safe, manner.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, ski patrol. Great. I think we got time for one more. I see one more question. Good luck getting the box up there.
Oh, fuck.
All right, I'll repeat it for you.
So I was just curious of all these resources that were great tonight here to benefit everybody in the room. Other than donating, but what are some how do we further support them so they stay in essential work of government, the weather updates and staff business? What are the ways to as a community we can support the people that do the analytical work to really help out? I don't know, to make sure it's prioritized on the forefront, because it obviously benefits everyone in the room.
The question is, how can everyone support these different services? And honestly, the answer to that question is to donate to your favorite organization, donate to TCSAR. You can donate to the Bridger Teton Avalanche Center Foundation. And you know what also you can do is just say thank you to people. That really matters, is just to express your appreciation to these people who are out in the field and doing things behind the scenes too to help keep us safe. So really just show your support, whether it's with your checkbook or just a pat on the back, really.
Yeah. Make good decisions. Don't have to call 911. Try that one. Did you say that?
You did.
That was kind of low-hanging fruit, man. Do you need us out of here? We got to get out of here, Maddie?
Whatever you want, man.
Whatever I want. Somebody bring me a beer. No, I'll get one in a minute. I'm just joking. Matt, Chris, Josh, thank you guys so much. Hey, Chris, Kitchen, where are you? I just gotta single you out and say thank you so much for sharing your story and for being open-hearted enough to do that. And I appreciate it. Do we appreciate this? Thank you, Matt. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, guys.